Is Father Time getting his revenge on Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers? And I guess we'll see and talk through the Thursday Night Football game to see if the analysts all agree. Plus, Christian McCaffrey in San Francisco. How are the odds adjusted? And our favorite plays of Week 8. This is The Huddle, presented by oddschecker. I'm Pat Mayo, joined, as always, here on oddschecker US by Ross Tucker, Pam Maldonado, and Brian Matthews to break down the Week 8 slate. But first, as always, I want to take a little look back at Week 7. What the hell is going on with Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady right now? It is getting not great out there because the Packers are 3 games back in their division to the Vikings. At least the Bucs are still tied for first in the NFC. You're in the NFC South right now with the Falcons, the surging Saints, and the surging Carolina Panthers. It's an embarrassing division. But Ross, I want to chuck it to you first. I want to read you this quote from Aaron Rodgers. This week, no one's going to give us a chance going to Buffalo on Sunday Night Football. It's a chance to get exposed. Shoot, it might be the best thing for us. Does he even know what's going on anymore?
I don't know what he's talking about, but he's starting to remind me of like one of the characters in Dazed and Confused. It's like, whatever, man, it'll all be all right. Like, no big deal. It is something else what's going on with the Packers right now. I think what he was trying to say is that maybe it'll be good for them to be big underdogs. Maybe it'll be good to be in a primetime game where everybody's watching. I'm not exactly sure. But I got to be honest with you, this is like the 3rd consecutive week that Aaron Rodgers has said something, and I'm not exactly sure what he means. I mean, he says, well, we got to make things simpler. Well, maybe, Aaron, if you had attended any of the OTAs or offseason program with your rookie receivers and your new pieces, maybe you would have discovered that months ago as opposed to mid-October during the season. They're a mess right now. Bakhtiari wasn't able to play. They've revamped their entire offensive line. They moved everybody positions except for the center. That's not healthy. That doesn't usually go well or work. And they didn't convert a single 3rd or 4th down against the Commanders. I mean, that wasn't the 85 Bears over there. That was the Commanders. So I think I'm glad Aaron's relaxed because I don't think anybody else in Packer Nation is.
Pam, I want to throw to you just for a second on this one. We gave out Packers to miss the playoffs plus 250 a few weeks back. This is the first time in Aaron Rodgers' career he is a double-digit underdog in an NFL game. Like, are they going to turn it around?
I don't know. I'm more inclined to believe that the Packers may call me crazy. Still not out of it because the Vikings, I'm not convinced, are a legitimate team. Their wins are by 1 score or less. And the Vikings, we know that how they play in their home stadium is not how we see Kirk Cousins play on the road. And yes, they're 3-0 in their division, but the Vikings on the road still have to face the Lions, the Packers again, and then the Bears. I mean, yes, the Lions are getting healthy, and they could have actually won last week against the Cowboys. That's a different story. But the Packers, maybe they'll turn it around and split that game. The Bears, Justin Fields is starting to come alive here a little bit more. So what if the Vikings are who I think they are? They go 3-3 in their division, and the Packers figure it out. Is that possible? Are we sure that the Packers are done? I'm not 100% convinced.
Brian?
I think the translation for me on Aaron Rodgers' comment is there's nowhere to go but up. And he's right. I mean, they've looked terrible these last 3 weeks. I know the Jets and the Giants have a good record, but they lost to the Commanders as well. And I don't know what this team's identity is. I mean, 1 week, Aaron Jones is getting 5 touches. Next week it's 17. I don't know that they know what they're doing sometimes. It just looks like they're not all in it. So, hey, I know I ended up on the wrong side of that one already, but I don't have much hope, and especially going into Buffalo, who's a buzzsaw right now. I get it. If we're looking at history, him being an underdog, Aaron Rodgers, that is. But look, I'm sticking with Buffalo on this one. They're just too dominant.
Well, it's funny, like what are the issues with the Packers? Because they look discombobulated, but a lot of it just has to do with drops a lot of the time, too. I don't think any team in football has dropped more passes than the Green Bay Packers receivers so far, and it just absolutely destroys any momentum they tried to build up on any single drive. It's kind of crazy to think. Another big drop last week, Mike Evans dropped that easy walk-in touchdown against the Panthers, and then it's like the soul got sucked out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So in consecutive weeks, they have now lost to PJ Walker, Mitch Trubisky / Kenny Pickett. That's not great when you're still like the 5th favorite to win the Super Bowl at the moment. It's the first time since 2002 that Brady is under 500 this deep into a season. So there's similar questions that I have right now, Brian, as I had to the Packers. It feels like the Bucs are closer to being good, though, doesn't it?
It does. And I look, I don't know, yeah, they're closer to being good, but those are 2 bad teams they just lost to. I didn't think were very good. But I do look at them and I think, all right, if you look at their division, that's the saving grace, right? They're still by virtue of a tiebreaker in first place. They've got some tough games left, but they've also got some easy ones. And I think as far as looking at those 2 teams and the route to turning things around, I think that the Bucs have a much easier path than the Packers do. I still, though, after watching these last 2 weeks, yes, that Mike Evans drop was bad, but Tampa Bay's defense is supposed to be elite. Carolina scored 21 points, which wouldn't be amazing by most team standards, but that's the 3rd highest point total of the year. And they look dominated. And the Panthers had just traded Christian McCaffrey. So we're talking about PJ Walker. They didn't have their best playmaker, and they still made work with it. So I was very surprised by that.
Yeah, to your point, Brian, the thing that's so crazy about the Bucs is I'd be stunned if they didn't win that division. Who's going to win it? Who's going to win it? So what really matters is making sure they're playing well in late December, early January when they win the division. I don't know if they're 9-8, maybe 10-7 when they win the division, but New Orleans isn't going to win that. Carolina's not going to win that. Pats, Falcons aren't going to win that. It's still going to be the Bucs that win the division. And I even think Pam made a good point. I think even though the Bucs aren't playing well, they're going to win that division. I think there's a great chance the Niners win the NFC West, which is wild. And I think Pam's right about the Packers. I could easily see the Packers getting better as the season went and the Vikings starting to choke down the stretch and winning that division. So you'd have in that situation, especially with Tampa and San Francisco, teams that as long as they're playing well in January, they would still win their division and still have a chance to make a playoff run. And they all have enough talent, especially in the NFC, to make that playoff run.
Yeah.
So for both teams, the Packers and the Bucs, your assumption is that this is rock bottom. And you have to say for the Bucs that losing 21-3 to the Panthers without a Robbie Anderson, without a Christian McCaffrey, that has to be the rock bottom. But my concern for the Bucs is, yes, they may still make the playoffs, but are they going to contend at any point when it matters? Because there is absolutely no ground game, and that is my concern. 46 total rushing yards. Fine if there is a couple of dropped passes, but this is a Bucs offense that had 46 total rushing yards to the Panthers, 2.9 yards per carry. They're terrible on third downs. They cannot convert. They are bottom 5 on third down conversions. I don't know when this offense gels together because there's not really a lot to go off of that it's going to improve. But as Ross mentioned, it's the saving grace of the division that you're in. We're all still waiting for playoff Lenny. Do we have to actually wait till playoffs to see it?
We may have to do that. And Ross, I do want to point out that, yes, my Falcons, as it's currently situated, do not look great to win this division. But what if halfway through the season they just abolish the forward pass? No team is set up better than the Atlanta Falcons.
Hey, Pat, if they do that, I'm going to be angry because I would have had a much better career and played a lot longer if they had never invented the forward pass. One-on-one pass protection was not my thing. I could have been like all pro if it weren't for having to actually throw the ball forward and pass block against some of those guys.
Well, let's go north. Let's go to, well, people will say New York, but let's just stop in New Jersey because we still might get the Sinatra New York Super Bowl right now. The New Jersey Jets and New Jersey Giants are a combined 11-3 at the moment. Out of all the surprises of the season, that has to probably be the biggest one. That are the Seahawks currently winning a division in football, and we all thought that they were going to be absolute trash. Being said, you have to figure out that the Giants look like a lock at minus 300 to make the playoffs, but they're still underdogs once again to those Seattle Seahawks. If it's value you're looking for, you can grab the Jets right now, Pam, at plus 135 to make the playoffs. Do you believe in these teams at all? Because advanced stats will tell you that the Giants are horrible, yet they somehow win every game.
So the big difference for me between the Giants and the Jets is one, coaching. You have Brian Dable, who is clearly doing some magic at halftime. He is making the appropriate halftime adjustments. The New York Giants are scoring on 50% of the second half possessions. That's the second best in the league. So they come out a little flat in the first half and they figure it out and find a way in the second half. You can have terrible performance. I'm not somebody who's going to look at the data 100% and just like blind bet it every single time. But clearly, this is a coaching situation where it is coming to fruition, where Brian Daboll is making the difference here. Daboll has turned Daniel Jones into a runner. He had 110 rushing yards in a 23-17 win over the Jags. Continue doing that. Potentially, they're going to get better. They're going to improve. Continuously find ways to win. Now, the problem with me for the Jets is Jets fans are severely getting some false hope here because the defense looks pretty good, except they have been benefiting off of some opposing quarterback luck. They had a win over Pittsburgh, but that was a mid-game quarterback switch from Trubisky to Pickett. They had a win over the Dolphins, but that was a third-string quarterback that they faced in Skylar Thompson. And then they beat the Packers. Maybe that's a little bit more of a definitive, but that's a legit performance, sure. 4 sacks on Rodgers. And then they had a win over the Broncos, but that was against a quarterback that hadn't had a start since October 2020. So sure, the defense looks good right now, but now you have to really rely on quarterback Zach Wilson to ball out because he's had 120 yards in back-to-back games, only 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 8 sacks. This is a Jets offense that is solely relying on a running back in Breece Hall. Well, he's gone and injured. So I am ready to see the real Zach Wilson, and it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, that's the problem, Pam, right there, what you just said. The Jets just lost their best skill position player in Breece Hall, who had become the foundational piece of their offense, and they lost their best offensive lineman. Elijah Vera Tucker's gone for this season as well. That's a bad combination to lose your best O-lineman and your best skill position player. I don't think they're going to be able to lean on James Robinson and Michael Carter. They're going to try to, but those guys aren't special like Breece Hall is. And without Vera Tucker, I don't think they're going to have a ton of success. The Jets are going to have to win games ugly with their defense moving forward, and I don't think they'll be able to do it at the same rate. I like the Giants more for all the reasons Pam just mentioned. I know everybody's saying the Giants aren't that good and they win all these close games and that won't continue. All right, well, maybe they won't win all of them like they seemingly have so far, 6-1 in those close games, but you still realize that some of that's coaching and some of that's just belief. They now are to the point where they expect to win those close games late. I've been on teams where you're hoping and you're wanting. The Giants under Daboll now expect to win those close games late, and that means something.
Yeah, I agree with both of them. And, I kind of wish I would have gotten to answer this first so I could flex some offensive lineman knowledge on Ross. Elijah Vera Tucker, one of my very favorite in the league. I got to watch him at USC. But, yeah, you're down him and Breece Hall. It's tough to invest in a team and say, which one do you like more? You got to stick with the Giants in the sense that, look, Daniel Jones used to turn the ball over at an alarming rate. He's done a great job tucking the ball, running, minimizing those turnovers. They can lean on Saquon Barkley. Their defense has been solid. And again, Breece Hall, you saw what he did in the quarter against that Denver defense who was shutting other guys down. He was a very, very, very good rookie. So, when you lose those two guys, and like Pam said, you got to go back to Zach Wilson, you don't feel too confident about that.
Instead of taking the Jets to make it to the playoffs, what you should be wagering instead is Zach Wilson passing yards under props and Zach Wilson interception props. You will make more money betting those than for them to make the playoffs.
Has Zach Wilson thrown an interception this year?
They don't give him an opportunity to throw. It's so busy. They're running the ball so much with Breece Hall. Now they're going to have to.
Yeah, essentially the Jets offense since Zach Wilson has come back has been the Tebow Broncos, which is not something that Jets fans wanted to hear when I said it, but just look at it. This is what they're doing. Running the ball as much as possible, telling your quarterback, for the love of God, don't turn it over. We have an awesome defense. No one can pass on us. This is how we're going to try to win games. And weirdly enough, they might get that. That might happen again this week against New England. I assume Mac Jones is starting, but it could be Zappy. They might make we're going to run. It'll be like a college offense where they run Mac Jones out for 2 series, bring in Zappy on third downs. They don't seem to know what they're doing right now, so the Jets might luck into another one here. The Niners did not luck into Christian McCaffrey. They gave a bunch of day 2 picks for him over the next 2 years. And I actually think this is a fantastic fit, but the books may have overreacted a little bit here, Brian. We got San Francisco 18-1 to 14-1 to win the Super Bowl, 8-1 to plus 650, now back up to 7-1 to win the NFC. To win the NFC West, they were even money. Now they are actually up to plus 125 because they're no longer winning the division. The Seahawks are winning the division. I don't know how I can properly phrase this. Yes, we know that he is an upgrade to this offense because he is a great player. But do running backs actually make that much of a difference in terms of the odds? Because it doesn't seem to.
No, I think the odds, it's an overreaction to one of the best running backs in the NFL being traded. Look, if anybody's going to maximize his potential, especially with what Carolina was doing or not doing with him this year, it's going to be Shanahan in that system. So I love the fit, but I don't think that this increases their odds of making the Super Bowl exponentially. I think that it's going to take some time to work him in, but you saw he looked very good. He's going to be heavily involved moving forward. But I don't think that this really changes much for their Super Bowl odds to me.
Right. So is McCaffrey a boost to this offense? That's the big question. I don't think that he's a boost to the 49ers offense, but I think he is a good complement to what they already have in running back in Jeff Wilson. So the only problem is the same with the 49ers. Can this team collectively stay healthy when it matters? It's the same thing with McCaffrey. Can he stay healthy in every game through the postseason to make it to a Super Bowl run? I would be more inclined to bet the 49ers at plus 125 to win the NFC West because it's just more of a short-term probability game rather than make it to the Super Bowl and then pick off whoever they face.
Well, and I'll say this. I think they're definitely, in my mind, the favorites to win the NFC West. Now with McCaffrey, they might have been without him. I'm impressed by what the Seahawks have done. I know that they have a lead. I'm not here to say the Seahawks, in my mind, are going to win the NFC West. I thought it was a one-game blip on the radar screen for the Niners defense. I still think they're very good. I think the Niners will win that division. The thing that's interesting about McCaffrey is he's not just a running back. And Kyle Shanahan didn't have a chance to really utilize him otherwise yet, right? He got there on Friday last week, played on Sunday. I think Kyle Shanahan was tired of defenses being like, where's Debo? Okay, Debo's in the backfield. All right, Debo split out wide. Always being aware of where Debo is. Well, now you got two of those guys. Now you got two Where's Waldo guys that you have to worry about. And I think Kyle Shanahan now will have a little extra time in the lab to come up with some unique ways to utilize them. I'm really intrigued to see how he mixes and matches Debo Samuel and McCaffrey moving forward.
Yeah, those are matchup nightmares across the board. I mean, you look at Ayuk's been playing very well recently. Kittle just had a huge game. So now you're talking about two, running back receiver threats. You can do so much pre-snap motion, so many different things with them. I agree with you. I am excited to see this. I think he definitely is an upgrade for this offense. He'll be the bell cow. Jeff Wilson will get some carries here and there, but you look at McCaffrey and what he's done. He's a perfect fit for that offense, and Shanahan will get creative.
No, and you're right, Ross, about him being utilized more as a receiving back. He had just 2 receptions on 2 targets and 24 yards. That was off of being in that system for an hour. So see what he can do for a full week. Yeah, I would say you'd be looking for him in his player props for receptions.
Ross, is there a chance Christian McCaffrey is good stats, bad team guy?
That's an interesting question. No, I don't think so. I think he can have good stats either way. And whether it's a good team or a bad team, I think he's a really good player. I know the Rams aren't happy that he ended up going to the Niners and not them because they wanted him. I mean, they wanted him there. They know, look, these guys that design plays, they're all about getting guys that they know are tough matchups. Brian was talking about it. Good luck covering Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield and in all the places that Kyle Shannon's going to use them. When they come out, what personnel are they? With Debo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey, what personnel are they? Is that 10 personnel and it's 4 receivers? Or is it 21 personnel and it's 2 backs? It's going to be really interesting to see not only how Shanahan uses them, but how defenses treat those guys.
Yeah. Let's go to Thursday Night Football. We've previously talked about the Buccaneers, have not spent much time lately talking about the Ravens. They are a 1.5 favorite in Tampa Bay on this short week, with Tampa Bay obviously reeling coming off these 2 losses. I mean, if you just want to bet and win, just bet the Ravens in the first half when they play well, and then they try to go full Ravens every single week and try to give the game away. They have 5 games so far that have come down to the final possession. They're 2-3 in those games. They tried to give it away to the Cleveland Browns last weekend. Brian, where are you leaning for this game? Is this a get right spot, or is it finally, hey, Lamar's just going to lay the smackdown here?
Yeah, look, I think on a short week, it's tough for this to be a get right spot with all the different, the different things that the Bucs have to correct here. I think last week with Mark Andrews, I don't think he was fully healthy. So I don't know how many times you're going to see him not record a catch in a game. He basically is their offense. It was good to see Gus Edwards, but just watching Tampa Bay and their defense recently, that offense as well. I think on the short week, it'll be a lot to turn around. So it's a close one, but I do like Baltimore in this.
Pat, you did say Ravens first half. I'll do you one better. And the way you attack this is take the first quarter. There's 2 options. You can take the first quarter under, or you can take the Ravens to win in the first quarter. Because in 7 games this season, Brady and the Bucs have been outscored 34-15 in the first quarter of games. They have only 5 total field goals on this Bucs offense and have been shut out in 3 games. 16 first quarter possessions, 0 touchdowns. So we know that the Baltimore Ravens like to start out hot. Well, then take them to win the first quarter, cash your ticket, and turn the channel.
It's so funny because I literally talked about this earlier today. Everybody loves the Ravens first quarter, first half. I do think it's the right bet because the Ravens stink in the fourth quarter. I mean, they've stunk in every fourth quarter the whole year. The crazy thing is, I still think the Ravens are the 3rd best team in the AFC. I still think they're the team that could give the Bills or the Chiefs the toughest game. But right now, it feels like the chasm between those 2 teams and everybody else is really wide. I thought the Ravens would be able to close the gap a little bit more than they have this year. At this point, barring something unforeseen, one of the biggest upsets of the year would be if it's not Bills Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, the way things are going right now.
You say that they're the 3rd best team in the AFC. The sportsbooks agree with you. They have the 3rd lowest odds, shortest odds to win the AFC right now, Ross, plus 850. That still seems a bit too low for me, though.
Well, I'm not taking them. I mean, I'm not taking them to win the AFC because that means, in my mind, based on how we think the seeding will be, they'd likely have to beat both those teams back to back, the Chiefs and the Bills, or the Bills then the Chiefs. Good luck. I mean, maybe now's the time to take it. Maybe they'll be better as the year goes on and they'll stop giving up these leads and maybe they can go on a playoff run. But right now, it feels like the Bills and Chiefs are far superior.
Well, we need to talk about the rest of the Week 8 slate, rapid fire style. So let's get to Pick'em, brought to you by MyOC Premium. And don't forget to head over to oddschecker.com and sign up for your very own MyOC Premium account. For less than just $1 a day, you'll have access to our gambling experts, exclusive picks for NFL, MLB, college sports, NHL, UFC, NBA, golf, and so much more. If you tuned in last week to the very first week of Pick'em on the show, we went 2-3. That's not great. Much better than I actually did on my wagers. So you want to listen to Ross and Pam and Brian. Ross, we'll start with you. The Battle of Pennsylvania. Eagles favored by 10.5 against the Steelers, coming off a bye week. Let me guess, you like the Eagles?
No, I don't actually. I'm gonna roll with the Steelers in that game. I'm actually gonna be there. I'll do the Eagles pregame on the radio and then gonna sit in the stands with my wife. I try to do it once a year to experience that, have a couple beers, sit with the people, enjoy it. Battle of Pennsylvania. Listen, I don't know how anybody knows how the Eagles will react coming off the bye. Sometimes they'll be sluggish. Sometimes maybe they'll be rusty. I don't know. Maybe they'll be refreshed and come out and win by 30 points. But the Steelers 2 weeks ago beat the Bucs. The Steelers this past week lost the Dolphins 16-10. I think they dropped, 4 interceptions of Tua Tagovailoa that he threw right to them. Steelers defense is playing pretty well right now. This feels to me like a 20-13, 23-13 win for the Eagles. I'll take the 10.5 and the Steelers on the road.
Love that.
Okay. Brian, let's go to you. What's your top one of the week?
I think I'm going to go. So if I'm looking at I'm looking at the Vikings here. We're talking about them not being that heavy a contender, but I like them actually -3.5 over Arizona. I know I had Arizona last week, and that came through. Luckily, thankfully, to some interceptions there. But yeah, I like the Vikings -3.5. Arizona's defense hasn't been playing well. I think DeAndre Hopkins had a good game, and Eno Benjamin had a solid game, but the Arizona offense did not. They didn't do anything that was overwhelmingly impressive. So in this one, I'll fade them this week. Take the Vikings at -3.5. I think Justin Jefferson, their playmakers are going to have big plays, and I do like the Vikings in this spot.
Pam, let's talk about the NFC West. Niners favored at the Rams. The Niners continuously beat the Rams in the regular season. When it's all on the line, they don't seem to beat them. But hey, here we are. 1.5 points, not a ton to cover. You going with San Francisco?
I'm going with the total, under 43, because since 2020, San Francisco is 9-15 to the under as a road team, and this is a defense that is number 2 in sack percentage against Matthew Stafford behind an offensive line that has allowed 22 sacks to him this season. That's bottom 5 in protection in the league. And the center, Brian Allen, for the Rams, he's still questionable. He's still on the injury list. Stafford has thrown 2 touchdowns in the last 4 games. Yes, they're coming off a bye. They may be potentially healthier, but I need to see it to believe it that the Rams are going to be improved. But at least we know what we are getting from San Francisco's defense, and all of the players that have produced a sack to Stafford in that first matchup, they're active and healthy, still in the lineup, so I like them to sack Stafford once again. So I'll look to the under on 43. But to Ross's game that he liked, Philadelphia Eagles are 0-3 against the spread after a bye in the last 3 seasons.
Interesting. I just noticed we have a lot of intrastate games this week. You got Steelers and Eagles, Niners and Rams. And then, Pam, we also have the Bengals favored by 3 at the Browns on Monday night.
I'm not looking to the side for this one. I would lean to the Bengals, but I like the over on 47. I believe that we're starting to see the Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase connection. Is it back? Because that's what I really want to say. It's been back-to-back games of 41 and 60-yard receptions. That's 2 of the highest that they've had this season. And the Bengals have scored 30-plus points now in back-to-back games. This offense is starting to gel together. Browns defense giving up an average of 29 points per game at home. They let the Patriots quarterback Bailey Zappi and Jets backup quarterback and Joe Flacco throw for over 300 yards each. So I'll be looking to Chase over receiving yards, Chase longest reception. Brown secondary in 4 home games allowed 6 wide receivers, longest receptions of 30 plus. So I think those props are definitely in play in addition to the total going over on 47.
Brian, you've already taken the Vikings -3.5. Now let's talk about Dolphins at the Lions. The Dolphins are favored by 3, but as Pam pointed out earlier, the Lions were very much in that Dallas game until like the final 5 minutes when it got out of hand.
Yeah, and I thought, look, Dak looked a little rusty. The offense didn't look that sharp. I don't want to overreact to that. I like Miami -3 in this one. They're sixth in yards per play, explosive playmakers all over the field. The first half, we saw some semblance of good quarterback play from Tua Tagovailoa. But, after that in the second half, they did struggle. But I do like them. I just think they have too much firepower this week. I think it's a good spot.
Ross, we'll end with you. How about my Atlanta Falcons -4.5 hosting the suddenly can't be stopped Carolina Panthers?
Well, hopefully your Atlanta Falcons don't blow it for me 2 weeks in a row. Last week, I took the Falcons, getting 6 points against the Bengals. That did not go very well. So now I'm going against them. It turned. I'm done with you, Falcons. I'm done with you, Pat Mayo. I'm going with the Carolina Panthers, getting 4.5. They ran the ball all over the Bucs. PJ Walker did a nice job with the football. Their defense has been good all year. And the Falcons don't trust Mariota at all. I don't think they'll be able to run it over Carolina. And now you got A.J. Terrell with the hamstring issue. Not real good. Give me Carolina and the points. 4.5, I'll take them. Even if Falcons win, it's by a field goal.
Well, if that's the case, and we talk pleasers and teasers here, it sounds like Carolina might be one of your teased up teams.
No, they're not. I'm almost straight Wong teasers, as Pam knows. So the 3 legs I like this week right now. I like the Bucs on Thursday night, teasing them up to 7.5. It is interesting how many more games nowadays are landing on 8 than they used to because more teams are going for 2, but I'm still taking the Bucs up to 7.5. I just don't see them losing by 2 scores at home against the Ravens. I'll take the Saints up to +8 in their game. I think the Raiders are playing really good football, but still, I don't know if the Raiders are going to go to New Orleans and win by double digits. And then finally, the Houston Texans. The Titans are kind of on fumes right now. They found a way to get Matt Ryan to throw them the ball directly. Austin Hooper had a ridiculous catch. Pittman fumbles. The Titans are still just skating by. Texans actually did a lot of good things against the Raiders. I'll take the Texans up to 8 as well. Those are the 3 teaser legs I like. Pair them how you choose.
Brian, do you have any legs that you like here? Did Ross steal yours?
Hey, no, the Texans, I actually like that one. I think Damian Pierce and, Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks are doing some good things. I don't know if Nico will play this week. I did like that one. Really, that was kind of my favorite one. Other than that, I did like Tampa Bay as well. I don't think they're going to lose by more than a touchdown. If they do, as we've seen with Baltimore, they like to make things tight or rely on Justin Tucker in the end. But other than that, I'll probably take the 2 picks I had and clear and pass the big numbers. Run those.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know if Nico Collins is going to play or not either, but the Texans are running out like the 2016 fantasy football sleeper wide receiver bust team of Philip Dorsett and Chris Moore. And I mean, Lord knows who they're going to have this week. Maybe they'll find Billy Volek and Drew Bennett and put them in the game at some point. Like, I don't know where this is coming from.
Hey, we saw a Kevin White reception last week, right? A 60-something yarder. So that one blew me out of the water. I didn't know he was still playing.
Pam, do you have a pleaser or a teaser?
I think right now for me, there are none. There's a lot of 3s up on the board. So for anything that's at 3 or 3.5, you're better off taking those spreads alone as opposed to risking the juice for 2 games to hit. But I mean, Ross mentioned the Bucs. I'm not sure that I trust that position just yet. There are other options right now. You have the Jets and the Rams up to 7.5. No, thank you, because we just talked about Zach Wilson and the terrible offensive line for the Rams. So wait until kickoff because some of these lines are definitely going to change.
That is going to do it for the Week 8 edition of the Huddle on oddschecker. I want to thank Pam, Ross, and Brian for being on the show. I want to thank all of you for listening. I'm Pat Mayo, but before we let you go, we wanted to tell you about the Spread Challenge, our way of giving you a chance to win $100 on us by simply predicting 3 spreads correctly. There are 3 free and easy steps to get involved. First, you must follow our Instagram page at oddscheckerUS. Next, find and like our pinned post with all the week's spreads. Then, the hard part. Pick the spreads correctly on 3 different games, and if you go a perfect 3-0, you're automatically entered to win $100. So follow us, like the post, put in your picks, and good luck.